I'm walking along the trail for Pueblo Bonito, and it's the major one that people associate with Chaco Canyon, if there is but anyway, it is the major one. One of the things we don't really focus on too much is that there is a vast amount of, or a lot of, ruins out here that you can see that have never been excavated. So the ruins, or the whole community, was much larger than just the Pueblo itself. You can see a lot of things that look like they've never been excavated. You can also see this big bunch of rocks that fell over on top of the part of the Pueblo. I can't remember when it was. I think it was in the 60s, but I could be wrong. One of the things I was thinking about was the fact that this Pueblo would have been active during the collapse of civilization in the Mediterranean, and they think part of that was from both social and environmental issues. You can't help but think if the which would make sense that the climate was changing during the receding of the last ice age, and how they talk about different communities even here that how the environment was changing, becoming drier 1,000 years ago, and was a worldwide event. From what I understand, it was not only supposed to be a spiritual center, but also a economic, commercial, trading in different things like macaw, turquoise, copper. I couldn't help but think when I was walking out of that one last night and took a picture of that mesa with the sun over the top of it. On the top of that mesa, there's supposed to be a sundial. And the relationship to the sun, as people's understanding of nature expands, and how man's knowledge increases, how our superstitions and beliefs in certain things change. Typically, and I imagine when I walk down towards the sundials, there will be, petroglyphs, there will be sundials. Because the sun was a major part of people's beliefs around the world. You would think that as little as the 17th century, we were still, in Europe anyway, imprisoning people for suggesting that the Earth wasn't the center of the universe. Of course, they had a whole different concept of what the universe meant. Although in the 16th and 1700s, they did, I think even back into the 1500s, they started getting the concept that there were planets, that the Earth wasn't covered by a dome where the water was stored above it, I guess, for rain or whatever. The concept of what the universe was and planets changed. This place, it had a map up there kind of showing the evolution through the 800s on forward. It does seem kind of surreal when you look at these kivas and you look at the buildings, and to think that there was a whole group, a whole society. You look at up there on the walls, see some of the notches where the timbers are at, and realize there was an organized community here that could import different materials from quite a long ways away. You look at these kivas and think that there were ceremonial activities going on. How they viewed those things could more than likely affect the plantings, the harvest, the yields, back in the 800s, it showed that there was just kind of part of the exterior of one part, and then it was eventually added on to. I'm not exactly, or it would be interesting to know why so many kivas. Other things were used as storage compartments. I know that they've found stuff that's related to storing turquoise and other things from different areas. I think back over 1,000 years, people would have been going through these doorways and I don't know if I'm going to go through this doorway very easily. You can see where the logs came through would have supported other stories. I am still amazed at look at the number of little bitty stones they used to face the walls with or whatever. I mean, that would have taken a massive amount of work. They weren't just using great big stones. Look how they tied the walls together and how massive the walls are. Remind you of some of the castles in Europe. I would assume that these should be historical changes that they made over time. I was thinking to myself about that. If you go down to South 14, Highway South 14, and go down to, can't remember, Mountain Air. Go down to Mountain Air, you'll get a lot of information on those missions down there, and I keep thinking back to the time when there's a story in those missions about 3 braves that escaped, I guess, their service to the mission, and then they were local natives, but they were sentenced to 3 years, essentially, of hard labor at the mission for escaping. You gotta be fucking kidding me. They're being sentenced for escaping, and it's their own community. And then to get sentenced to 3 years. Tough, hard labor. By the Catholic priests. Unfortunately, it also talks about some other. That's right in front of us is a big pie. Hey, there's a bunch of little quail over there. It's sentenced to 3 years of hard labor for the Catholic Church for escaping your own community. It would have been interesting to be able to go back in time and see some of these things. Over by Bloomfield, there is a kiva that is maybe a little bit bigger than this kiva that has the support beams and stuff and how the roof would have been, and you can walk down into it and actually walk out the other side, and it shows the structure of a kiva completed, which is real interesting. That film that I put, or YouTube deal I put, was up on top of that mesa yesterday. It's a lot cloudier today, which is okay. It does tend to amaze me how few big rocks you actually see in their masonry work. They had to have a fairly good-sized group that were breaking down the rocks. I know that the exteriors are different from the interior of the wall, just like they are in the castles in Europe. I wonder what would have happened if the Europeans wouldn't have came and discovered America. One of the guys that I worked with was from one of them was actually from the Zuni tribe, or Pueblo. The other one, I can't remember which, but anyway, he was talking about the fact that they can't disclose what goes on in their sweat lodges and stuff. I'm sure was similar back in the day. Of course, being a person that's always thinking, I wonder to myself how people were treated. It's one of my problems when I go to those absolutely beautiful cathedrals in Europe is how many people's lives were destroyed to build them, how many people were affected. I hope the native population were more fair. Yes, it took a lot of work. I would like to believe that it wasn't all done by slave labor. I'm sure there were shaman and there was a hierarchy. One of the walls from another Pueblo. Just gotta think of the massive amount of food that it would have taken to support a community like this. I also think to myself, what the hell do they want with those holes that appear to be man-made? You can see these piles behind the pueblos and stuff. Must have I don't want to say garbage pit, but were there structures there where that's just places they threw the stuff, or is there something down there? Looks like they're trying to stabilize that wall. Boy, that kiva is quite a ways up above the surface. This kiva is huge. I still don't know if it's as big as that one up at Bloomfield. Seems to be a whole cluster of little kivas over here. Not exactly certain why they have little ones. I wonder what was going on with this wall and when they filled it in. It almost seems like buttresses that would have led to openings that have been filled in. Was this something that the Park Service did to stabilize them, or? A lot of this stuff was done before the Park Service anyway. They're kind of scattered out, these ruins along this side over here. There's a trail that goes up on top. I'm going to walk up. It's a little over 3 miles round trip.